webinar, what your competitors are doing to win HOA boards and how to beat them. I am John Leutermann from Big Rock Marketing. We'll first start off with a few housekeeping rules. I have Brianna from my team on the call today, and she will be able to assist with any sort of technical issues that you may have. Please feel free to drop a comment in the chat on the right-hand side. That's also where we will be doing Q&A at the end of our session, but feel free to type your questions as we go, and we will answer them at the end. There will be a recording of today's session. It will be emailed to you shortly after the call, so you can feel free to share that with anyone from your team who may want to view it. On the upper right-hand side, there is a handout of today's slide deck under the Handouts tab. We will have a few polls today, which will appear on screen, just to ask a few survey questions. And thank you all for joining. We will get started. Again, my name is John Leutermann, president of Big Rock Marketing. I have over 15 years of digital marketing experience and have a proven track record of growing community association management businesses. Today's agenda is the reality of how boards choose management companies, what winning competitors are doing, why good companies still lose, some strategies to win, and then some live research as well. And then, as I mentioned, we'll be doing Q&A at the end. So today's presentation will be a combination of both slide deck, and also I'm going to go out and do some live searches during our presentation as well. So I will get started. So the reality of how boards actually choose new management companies. So a lot of people think that boards are choosing based on price. And of course, that is a component, but oftentimes the company that gets chosen has been chosen before the board members actually speak with any companies. Most people these days are doing a ton of research online before deciding who to actually reach out to. And so boards are usually choosing based on trust, professionalism, visibility, responsiveness, perceived expertise, and ease of communication. And so what's really difficult here is that even if it is a referral, they're getting the information and they're trying to find these bullet points online. And in all reality, for a lot of businesses, the best businesses out there aren't the ones that appear to be the most trustworthy, the most professional, the most visible or responsive. So your online reputation can be completely different from what homeowners experience in the real world, and what a board would experience working with you. So, it's super important to do everything that you can to put your best foot forward online and to have a professional appearance and to have a strong digital footprint. And I'll demonstrate some of these a little bit as we go through this presentation. So how board members are actually researching companies now. So they're using Google and AI search to look at multiple management companies typically. They're comparing websites, so they're visiting the websites and comparing them. They are reading online reviews, and they're looking at your responses to the reviews as well. They're looking at the website to see if you have educational content, if you appear to be an expert in this subject, and they're also asking their neighbors and other communities for referrals. And they actually make their judgments very quickly. So this is a very quick process. They're trying to check this off as one more thing that they have to do throughout the day. And so they're often making their decision very quickly. So we have a very small window to make sure that you are presented in the best possible light. And again, boards are comparing your digital presence amongst your competitors long before speaking with you. And so I guess most important, are you present when they're doing their research? Are you showing up in Google? Are you showing up in ChatGPT? The new AI search type functionality within Google as well. Are you there? And if you're there, are you leaving a positive impression upon them? Are you going to be in their list of 3 or 5 that they narrow it down to? Or are they just going to pass over you because either it doesn't look great or it looks just average, and they could choose anyone at that point. But so really what's important is to stand out and look stellar in comparison to your competitors. So I'm going to share my screen now and do some real-time research. And so I'm located in Milwaukee, but Chicago is just down the road, and they have a much bigger HOA market. So I thought that would be a good city to use here. And I just want to kind of take a look at some of the results that we're seeing in various platforms so that you get a feel for what board members might see when they're doing their research. Um, and so the first search I did here is HOA management companies Chicago. So someone typed this in. It would be a very similar result if I was in Chicago right now. If I were to say HOA management companies near me, a very similar result would come up. So what we see here first is that Westward 360 Management has a nice sponsored ad here with lots of site links, so that they're taking up a lot of real estate with their sponsored ads. So these are paid Google pay-per-click ads. And they also have the top spot in the Google Maps section. This is also done through Google Ads. And then underneath it, we have organic maps section results. We have a few companies that appear here. And then underneath that, this is the more traditional, this is how things used to look, the 10 blue links that Google has always had. Those are still here for most searches. Now, if I were to do this same search on my phone, I would probably get different results. So what I have found is that on a mobile device, you're getting more of the AI mode results. And so the way to kind of simulate that is to click on this AI mode up here, and this will kind of show you what you would see more likely than not on a phone. So the results are just presented in a slightly different way here. These are still loaded from Google Maps, so making sure that your Google business profile is fully optimized gives you the best opportunity to show up there. But also your website is also one of the driving factors of this as well. So another search here is condo management Chicago. So in this case, Westward 360 also has a sponsored result, but it isn't the long result with all the site links as the last example was. They also have the top spot here in the map section, which is a sponsored result through Google Ads. And then we have 3 results here in maps. And so one thing to kind of point out here is that when we look at these maps results, some of them are the same companies, but some of them are different. And surprisingly, for condo management, there are 2 that have less than a 4-star rating showing up in the maps results. So that is kind of unusual, but with Google, you kind of never know what you're going to get. And then again, the traditional results down here, and Reddit has a really big presence in search results, and it's also feeding ChatGPT a lot of its information. So I would highly suggest just checking out searches in your area for management companies and seeing if your company is listed either positively or negatively, and try to participate in any way that you can on Reddit. Here's a couple of AI search results here. So at ChatGPT, I asked the question, who is the best high-rise management company in Chicago? And they delivered 5 results there. One of the things I want to point out on this screen is if you're interested to know how they came to this conclusion and why they're recommending these companies, they don't really give you all the details, but if you click down here on sources, you can see where they've gotten their information from. And one of the big ones is the Better Business Bureau. Most of the management companies that I speak with don't realize that the Better Business Bureau actually has a review platform on their website. And so Most people are aware of the mediation, like people can submit formal complaints, and then there's a way to mediate throughout there as well. But there's actually a review tab as well on the Better Business Bureau where people can leave your business a review. Most management companies honestly don't have any reviews, and so even just getting a few could help influence ChatGPT's decision of whether or not to list your company within their results. So that's super important. Just making sure you have the best reputation possible on the BBB's website. And then again, so if we look at, and this one I searched, who's the best HOA management company in Chicago? And the reason why I asked questions of ChatGPT is because I was trying to simulate how most people search on ChatGPT. For Google, most people are still using keyword searches, but most people are asking questions on ChatGPT. And so I did that to kind of mimic how most people would search. And so again, there is some overlap between the companies that are listed here, but there are also brand new companies. I think there's actually looks like four different ones for four different companies between the two. So each one has four unique companies listed. So that is interesting. And so the game has definitely changed. And I know I hear from a lot of people that the huge conglomerate nationwide companies are dominating everything, and that is true in some cases, but in many cases it is not. So there's definitely an opportunity for smaller privately owned management companies to perform well on both of these platforms. Okay, I'm going to head back to the presentation. So competitors that are performing well are winning the first impression battle. So now we're going to ask our first poll question. And the question is your company actively asking communities for reviews? So we'll just take a moment for everyone to be able to answer that question. All right. Yeah, and it looks like the vast majority of people are asking their communities for reviews. So that is great. Congratulations to all of you. That's awesome. Um, it is super important, and even more than ever. So reviews have always been important, but even more than ever, the AI search tools are trying to get a sense of your reputation based on your reviews when they're making determinations of who they're going to present in their results. And so these reviews are even more important. Um, and some of the advice that I give to management companies in regards to getting reviews is make it part of your internal culture. Um, it has to be a consistent program internally that's talked about on a regular basis during team meetings, and encouraged, tracked, rewarded, because some, and especially in competitive markets, your competitors are definitely doing that. And so some of the other tips that I give are making sure that your managers, when they're speaking to homeowners or board members, that whenever there's a positive experience, that they at that point they ask for the review. So it's asking the right person at the right time. And so you want to make sure that when somebody's satisfied with what the work that you've done, that you ask them at that point. You just kindly ask them, hey, would you mind just taking a minute and leaving us a Google review, or leaving us a BBB or a Yelp review? And then also board members, when you're able to help board members, that's another great opportunity. as well as vendors. If you're able to help a vendor get into a new community, that's a great time to ask them for a review. Um, so winning companies are consistently requesting reviews. They're responding professionally to the reviews in a timely fashion. They showcase their testimonials or their reviews on their website. They're using reviews in proposals. They have strong Google business profiles, modern websites, strong review counts, educational resources on their websites, and then fast loading mobile sites as well. And professional perception creates trust before conversation ever happens. So we're going to take a look at some examples of reputation. So these are examples of what you can do for your company, taking a look at some of the competitors in your market. So I'm going to just take a look at this search here. And so if I were a board member trying to make a decision here, there's two businesses here that stand out to me that I would probably contact. And there's two that I probably would skip without even reading a single review. But let's take a little bit closer look here. So it looks like they have responded to most of their reviews here, even some negative ones, and they seem to give a pretty decent response as well. So that is good. This company here looks like they have not been responsive to their reviews, and so this could make a difference for a board member. It looks like they have responded to some older ones, but looks like the more recent ones have not been responded to. So that this could make a difference. Let's take a look at this one. Yeah, and so these most of these are responded to. It looks like they have not responded to the negative ones, which sometimes there's a reason for delaying that. But it looks like there's been some that are a few weeks old that they haven't responded to. And I would highly encourage you. Every management company gets negative review here and there. Oftentimes, and board members they realize that things are going to happen. People make mistakes, or there's just things outside of a management company's control that they get a negative review for. Oftentimes, you guys are reviewed for something for a rule that you didn't make, but you were required to enforce. And so I would just encourage you to respond to all the reviews, because a lot of times board members are looking at, okay, yeah, it's super easy for you to respond to a 5-star review, but what happened when something went wrong? Did the management company get defensive? Did they take ownership? Did they say, hey, we're going to train our team, we'll get better next time? Did they kind of just give a brief explanation of the situation? So I think the way that you respond is definitely looked at by board members. So I would highly encourage you to respond to all reviews, especially the negative ones. And then beyond that, if you would want to do further research on these companies, and what board members would do is they will Google the company's name. So let's say, just show a couple of examples of that. So, and again, I've mentioned these companies before here. BBB and Yelp are the big ones besides Google. Google's, of course, the most important, but BBB and Yelp are also super important. Here's a really great example for this particular company of a response on a Reddit thread. So I would encourage you to put your company name in and the word reviews and just see what comes up. And just for your information, on Yelp, anything above a 3 for a management company is good. Yelp is very hard to get positive reviews. But So here's an example of BBB that I had mentioned earlier. Here, so there's the complaints, but then there's also the review section. So this is actually a really good example. So this company has a 4.5 star review rating on Google with 608 reviews. And on the BBB, they have a 1-star rating, right? So they're obviously a much better company than a 1-star rating based on their Google reviews alone. And so they're probably having over 600 reviews. They probably have a review acquisition program in-house to help get those reviews, but they haven't been sending people to the BBB because they only have 3 reviews and it's a 1-star rating, right? So that's a huge opportunity there. Because I would say that not only board members are looking here, but AI search tools are also coming here to see whether or not they should recommend you for their results. And I can just take a quick look here. And I don't see, this is probably not by coincidence, I don't see that company listed in either of these 2 searches that I did on ChatGPT, and it's probably because of the BBB reviews, which is it's sad for them because they have so many wonderful reviews on Google. All right, we will go back to the slide deck. So next is looking at, so we've looked at online presence, we've looked at reviews. Now let's take a look at competitors' websites. So we're going to take a look at first impression of professionalism, clarity of messaging and value proposition, visibility of reviews, testimonials, trust signals, the ease of finding contact info and calls to action. So for the management companies, it would be request a proposal or get more information. Those types of things will be your CTAs. The educational resources and board focused content, are they really locked in on the industry? Is it clear that they are experts in their field? Website speed, navigation, and overall visibility. How clearly the company differentiates itself from competitors, and whether the website builds confidence and credibility or otherwise. And just kind of like ask yourself objectively, which company would you trust if you were on the board? And so I'm going to share my screen again just to kind of go over a few competitors' websites here for the Chicago market. All right, so using this same example again of condo management Chicago. So there are, if I was doing this search, I would probably check out this Hales Property Management website. And then just for discussion's sake, actually, you know what? I think I'm going to go over to this search here. And so Hales is in this one as well. I'm going to pull up the Real Manage website. And so Hales Property Management is ranking much higher than Real Manage. But and obviously Real Manage is a huge, huge company, right? But let's say, for example, I wanted to see if they offered, like mixed use or master plan community management. And so if I come to this site and click, I'm not sure. So mixed use or master planned, I see association management. I'm not 100% sure. So this site right here that was way down the page, 3/4 of the way down the page, they clearly demonstrate that they do those things, right? They work for board members, residents, title agents, developers. So they've made it very clear what they do. And then for companies that serve multiple states, they've made it very clear which states they serve. And so even though this site, if somebody was doing deep research and they were clicking on every single company to see who they should use, even though this company has a great Google rating, great um, great visibility at the top of the page, they may not be chosen over one that was further down the page because they make it very clear what services they provide. And so when looking at your online presence, this is super important. Does your website clearly state what you do, who you serve, and where you serve? What locations do you serve? And so that is super important. Go back to the slide deck. So how do you beat the competition? So these are the new competitive approaches, the three pillars of winning online. And so you need to have visibility. So do you appear when boards search? You need to have credibility. Do you look trustworthy and established? And so that would be your website and your online presence. And authority. Do you stand out as the best option? So visibility will get you seen, credibility will build trust, and authority gets you chosen. Now we are going to ask our next poll question. Have you Googled your own company recently and compared it to other competitors? Take a moment to answer this question, please. Okay, looks like 83% of you said yes, which is great. Congratulations, that is perfect. And 17% of you said no. So that's an opportunity for those of you who have not recently Googled your own company and compared it to your competitors. So in regards to pillar one, which is Google visibility, the important factors are making sure that your Google business profile is completely optimized, which will help you with rankings in the local pack. Making sure that you have a strong website. And so by strong, I mean a page for each type of community that you serve, similar to the Real Manage example that I had pulled up earlier. A service area page for each city that you serve, so that you have pages dedicated to all the major communities that you're able to service with your management services. A board member resources section or blog posts that are hyper local. And this is a conversation I've been having a lot recently in regards to blog posts. Most management companies will write blog posts and they're about the right topics. However, if they're general in nature and not geo targeted, so not local to your area, either your community or your state, you're competing against every other management company in the whole country, which is super hard to do. But when you make them localized to your area or to your state, it definitely narrows the field and gives you a better chance to show up. And like board member resources can perform exceptionally well in pulling in board members to your website. So, and throughout your site, making sure that you're targeting service plus city keywords, especially in some of the SEO elements like title tags, meta descriptions, and then also within your content as well. Making sure that you have strong calls to action throughout the site to encourage board members to take action. You want to make sure that any page that a board member that specifically targets a board member. So, for example, if you have service area pages for each city, and if you have communities we serve type pages, you want to make sure to have a very strong call to action. That could be a form, a button, and those are the primary ones, forms and buttons. But also you can have like a floating button on those pages as well, so that it follows the user in those pages, so they can easily click to request a proposal with your company. And then you also want to make sure that you have consistent business info across all platforms and a strong digital footprint. So that's going to be your online profiles. And the importance of that had waned in recent years, but with AI becoming strong now, those platforms are looking at all your online profiles, and those each time they find your information on a profile site, it's like a vote for your company. So making sure that that information is accurate across all platforms is super important. So pillar two is reviews, and so I'm sure by now you've heard me mention reviews several times here. So reviews are going to help with trust, and so again, Google, BBB, Yelp, Reddit is another one, but quantity signals popularity, quality signals your service level, recency, so how recent were the reviews, that signals consistency to board members, and then responses signal your professionalism. And people trust patterns, not outliers. And by that, what I mean is, um, if you get 10 reviews in 1 month and then none for the next 3 months, uh, Google and board members are going to think that, oh, they must have done something. They must have just been like a little gimmick or something to get reviews. And then they stopped at that point. Um, a company with 80 reviews and a 4.6 rating will beat a company with 10 perfect online reviews every time, because people don't think that 10 perfect 5 out of 5 stars could possibly be real, especially with a management company. So now we're going to ask our final poll question, which have you searched for your company in ChatGPT yet? So we'll give everyone a moment to answer this question. All right. So about 60% of you said yes, you have searched for your company in ChatGPT already, and 40% said no. So I would definitely encourage you to do that. And you can ask ChatGPT, what do you know about my company? What is the reputation of my company? Just to see what information it provides and to give you some opportunities of where to improve. And you can do the same thing for your competitors as well. I think there's been people who've studied this in depth as to whether ChatGPT will actually like give you the secret sauce. And I think the jury is kind of out on that, so we don't know for sure. But it certainly can't hurt. If the data is getting pulled up in ChatGPT, we know at least that they have it in their database and that it could be used for things. Um, One of the best things to do is, as you do searches, more general searches for recommendations for management companies in your area, just take a look at those sources that ChatGPT will list and make sure that your information is found on as many of those as possible. So it won't be possible to be found on all of them, because a lot of times they will look at each individual website, and of course a competitor would never put your information on their site. But anytime there's a profile site, BBB, Reddit, Yelp, make sure that you get yourself listed in those places, so that as they're doing their searches and trying to find companies to present in the results, that your company has the opportunity at least to show up there. And then pillar number 3 is authority positioning. And this is done primarily through your website. So making sure that you have a clean, modern, and easy to navigate website, content that educates HOA boards, clear messaging and service differentiation, strong branding and visuals. And if a board can't quickly understand what you do and why you're different, they'll move on. And I can say that I've been to some management company websites, and they're great looking websites, but they got a little funny with their like tagline in the on the hero image, and that when I asked them, like, hey, if you didn't know your company, would you be able to tell in 2 seconds what service you actually provide? And sometimes the answer is no. And so I I totally understand branding and marketing messages, but just make sure that when you look at your website, within 2 or 3 seconds, would someone else know what it is that you do? And if the answer is no, find a way to make it more obvious. Because quite frankly, if people go and in a few seconds they can't determine what you do, they will leave. And then trust symbols. So if you're a member of the CAI, or if you're in California, the CACM, if you're BBB accredited, I would recommend adding the logo as well. Just anything you can do to ensure trust in people. If you've been in business for 25 years, definitely put that on your website. People love to see that. And then again, testimonials from real customers speak volumes. I know that most website CMSs have a way to embed like Google reviews on there, and they can even filter so that it only shows like 4 and 5 stars. That is helpful, especially if you have a good review strategy in place and you are getting a lot of positive reviews. That would be recommended to do that. So, what does a winning company look like? They rank in the top 3 Google positions for key searches. They have 50 to 150 plus strong reviews. And I'll just mention that, when I built this slide, this is kind of general information, but if you're in the Chicago market, 50 to 150 strong reviews isn't going to cut it, because the top companies have 400, 600 reviews. So it is going to be personalized to your area. You definitely want to have a 4+ star rating. And just know that if you're at like 4.1 or 4.2, if you get to 4.3, you'll get the partial star. So it makes it look like you were at 4.5. So, try to strive for that. Consistent branding across all platforms. Again, a page for each type of community that you serve, a page for each city that you serve, helpful board member educational content, clear geographic targeting. And these types of companies aren't the ones who have to chase after leads. The leads will come into them naturally because they're showing up in searches when they have these strong online profiles. So, and I've definitely talked to some management companies who've been in business for 25 years. They're the best company in town. They're one of the biggest companies in town. But then when they try to find themselves online, they can't. Or I'll ask them, how many leads do you get to your website a month? And it's, just a couple. And so what are some of the reasons why good companies can still lose online? So some of the reasons are that they are hard to find in search. So if you're not found, it's going to be very difficult for somebody to submit through your website because they won't know that you exist. If they only have few or some outdated reviews or a low review score, an old or confusing website. I think we all have seen those websites that you're like, wow, this was built a good 15 years ago. You definitely don't want to be that company. A website that doesn't look good on mobile devices. For management companies, most of them are approaching 50% traffic through mobile devices. So, if you work in an office, it's very easy to not pull out your phone when you're doing searches of your own website, but I would encourage you to also do your searches on your mobile devices as well, just to make sure that you know what other people are seeing. And you want to make sure that you don't just have generic messaging or an inconsistent online presence. And I just put in there a quote: "It's not always that you're worse; it's that you look worse online." And so there's definitely an opportunity to bring yourself to the modern ages if you have an old website, or if you don't have the best online profile or online footprint. There's definitely an opportunity to improve that. So I would encourage each of you to do a competitor audit. So search for management companies in your area, and some of the items you definitely want to take a look at are the Google rankings, reviews, website clarity, mobile experience, calls to action, educational content, trust. and just ask, what is strong on my website, what's strong on my competitor sites, what's missing from my site, what's missing from my competitor's site, and would you call this company if you were a board member doing research? That is the bottom line question that you would want to ask. So in summary, boards often choose based on trust and perception, not price. Google visibility is now a major competitive advantage. So that is something that you want to stay in tune to. It can change very quickly. So strong reviews and online reputation do influence board members' decisions and confidence in your company. Winning companies position themselves as experts and educators. Educational content helps build authority and trust before conversations begin. And so if you have in-depth articles about all the topics that would be important to a board member in your area, it gives you definitely a better chance of winning that business. Faster response times and better follow-up increases win rates. And so I threw this one in there. I can't tell you how many times I've asked a management company about, okay, so you're getting, let's say 5, 10, 15, 20 leads a month through your website. How fast are you getting back to those leads? And so sometimes it's, oh, we send an email within 48 hours. That's definitely not fast enough, because when board members are doing their research, most of them are doing research for multiple companies all at once. And so if you are the company who doesn't respond for 48 hours and you only reach out with an email, emails have like 20, 25% open rates. You're definitely not going to be the one that they choose. I would highly recommend a phone call as quickly as possible. I saw a stat somewhere that if you don't reach a lead within 5 minutes, your chances of ever reaching them drop by 90%. And so they're at their computer, they're on their phone doing the research right now. If you get that lead, you have to treat it like gold. It's super important to follow up, at least somebody on the team to follow up as quickly as possible. Generic websites cause companies to blend in with their competitors. The companies winning more communities are easier to find, easier to trust, and easier to understand. And again, visibility plus trust plus authority plus responsiveness equals a competitive advantage. The company that feels like the safest and smartest choice usually wins. I'd like to thank everyone for joining the webinar today. If anyone would like a free competitor analysis that I would go through with you one-on-one and take a look at your website in comparison to your competitors and give you some free tips and tricks of how you might be able to improve, and just to get a baseline of how you're performing in comparison to the competitors. There's a link that just popped up on the screen. You can sign up for that, or you can visit the Big Rock website at bigrockonline.com/webinar. I've also included my contact information. If anyone has any questions, they can reach out to me directly. And now we will go to Q&A. So please pop your questions into the chat if you haven't already, and I will answer all of them. Okay, Brianna, do we have any questions?
You hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, perfect. Someone in the chat, Alex, asked, our websites are controlled by corporate, so we can't really modify it. I guess more of a statement.
Sure. Yeah. Okay. I definitely know some companies that are like that. I guess my question would be, is there any aspect that you have control of? Like, can you send them board member resource content and they can add it for you? Do you have any control of your online profiles, Google Business Profile, anything like that? Or is everything completely controlled by corporate? You can control social media. Okay. Well, I guess that you can definitely try to do a little bit on social, but the things that move the needle the most are going to be your website for sure, and your Google business profile. So that seems that that would be a little bit of a hindrance to being able to take things into your own hands, unfortunately.
Trevor also said that he's heard of AI sabotage that embeds prompts and proposals to have ChatGPT or other AI give positive feedback on HOA management companies. Have you heard of or seen this?
AI sabotage that embeds prompts and proposals to have ChatGPT. Um, I have not heard of that. Interesting. But if you've seen any articles on that, I'd be really curious because that's interesting. I've not heard of that. I hope that's not real, but that seems like it could be a big deal if it actually happens. Thanks for sharing, Trevor.
Another question someone asked is, what's the fastest way to improve our Google rankings locally?
That's a great question. Um, so there's I mean everything kind of matters, but if you um, had to pick something, I would start with my Google business profile. And the reason is that when you make improvements to your Google business profile, those changes have like nearly immediate impact within 24 hours. They help. And as far as like scope of projects go, optimizing a Google business profile is a much smaller scope than having to transform a website into performing better. So I would start with the Google business profile and then I would move on to the website from there. And as far as order of importance on the website, I would start with the communities we serve type pages. Well, I should say, make sure you have a really good homepage because most people are going to visit the homepage at some point during their visit. And then the communities we serve type pages, and then the service area city type pages would be the next highest priority.
Alex also said that they've been advised against having employee names mentioned in Google reviews. Would you also recommend that?
That is a new thing. I did see an article on that. So Google has like kind of a fine line about like they basically they want you to get reviews, but they don't want you to be like asking for them. But I would say, Alex, the way I look at that is that naturally, when someone does business with any sort of company, restaurant, plumber, they're naturally going to use a person who's giving them really good service. They're going to use their name, and so I can't ever see Google truly like flagging a company or discounting their reviews unless like every single one has a name in it. So if you're a management company, and this is something that I've heard, and this might be why Google came up with this, is that people will say, "Hey, we'll give you 25 bucks for every time one of our employees gets a Google review. If you're an employee and you get a Google review and your name's in it, we'll give you 25 or $50 or something." And so if every single one of your company's reviews has someone's name in it, I think that's what Google's trying to prevent. But if a fraction of them have the name in it, I think that's okay. I can't imagine Google ever penalizing anyone for that because that's normal. That's natural when you do business with a company.
Another question that we have is, what type of website content attracts HOA boards the most?
The educate board member resource educational content. And so the thing with that content is it's more higher up in the funnel. So it's not someone searching HOA management company per se. It might be somebody searching about roles for board members or a specific law in your area or a regulation. And so they're not always ready to make a decision, but that type of content attracts the most board members. And then as long as you have a really good website, they will definitely revisit your site and keep you in mind when the time comes to be able to make a decision, or if they become unhappy with their management company, that would be you'd be the one of the top companies in their mind before they start doing their research.
Okay, and then how can smaller management companies compete against larger brands online?
Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, I think all the things that were mentioned in today's webinar are ways that you can do it. I think the hard thing is that everyone has finite time and resources to do all this. So, but you can see in some of the searches that I did, Real Manage has, as a huge company, and I'm sure invests a lot in marketing. They weren't one of the top performing companies. They were some of the smaller independent companies. And so, online reviews is a great way to get an advantage. Um, making the improvements to your website, making the improvements to your Google business profile, those are all great ways to compete with the local competitors. The service area pages are also fantastic. Those perform really well, as not all the major national players have that on their website. So, were there any other questions at all? All right. Well, thank you so much for joining the webinar today. I really appreciate it. And as mentioned before, if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to help. If you'd like to sign up for the competitor analysis, you can click the button or visit bigrockonline/webinar, and we will take you through a personalized competitor analysis to give you some personalized recommendations on how you can make improvements to your online profile. Thank you.